But let's think about this, and I thought you brought up an interesting point about cutting taxes for the high-income people. Via the corporate tax rate, that is stimulative for job creation. And I think it's hard to deny, because there was even consensus during the Obama administration that we needed to cut down the corporate rate from 35%, because it was keeping a lot of the profits offshore, number one. And I wonder if you recall the same thing. Number two, look how the banks are reacting already to the news that they're going to start taking back some of the Dodd-Frank regulations. They're talking about giving money back to shareholders and reinvesting it into the economy. Aren't these the kind of positive impacts you have when you reverse bad policy?
Well, I mean, think about what you just said there. Take with Dodd-Frank. Gary Cohn said they want to repeal the rules of the road that were established after the financial crisis so that banks have more money to lend. But then the first thing you heard announced was they don't intend to lend the money. They're going to take the money and pay it out in dividends
well, that was a
to
Wall
the
Street Journal
shareholders
report.
of the bank.
Yeah,
to be
that's
clear,
exactly
that was
what's
the Wall
wrong
Street Journal.
with the system.
Yeah. The Wall Street Journal came out with
But
that
that's
story.
exactly what's wrong with the system.
Shareholders are
that's
people,
not
no?
using the capital to lend, that's paying out high dividends.
Yeah.
And if you just go look at the
Lending
data,
is up, Austin.
it's
You know
great
that,
for
right?
people who own dividend-paying stocks, but those tend to be very high-income people. That's not a stimulus. That's not a job.
Lending is up, by the way. It's really the small, medium-sized banks. I heard with Dodd-Frank. But what do you make about the fact that didn't we have consensus about lowering the corporate rate even during the Obama administration? Isn't that a stimulative move?
Yeah, when you say
opinion?
even during the, I was involved in saying that.
Maybe why I
think
said that.
How come you weren't able to get it done, Austin?
Idea.
How come you weren't able to get it done?
Because when you go in to ask the question, how do you lower the corporate rate, it's not cheap to lower the corporate rate. It costs a lot of money. You lose a lot of revenue. And so you got to say, how do you pay for it? And just cutting loopholes is not enough. The reason that our rate is higher, but we don't collect as much as other countries do, is because we have a narrow base.
Which is why the border adjustment tax, Dagan McDowell, is being talked about to raise
I'm not
revenue.
saying it's a bad idea, Maria. I'm not at all saying that. It's a very interesting idea. But I think people need to understand the border adjustment tax converts the corporate income tax into a national sales tax. That's what it does. It's a value-added based sales tax. And so there are reasons why you might not want to tax production and instead tax a nation's consumers. But I don't think the people who supported Donald Trump understand that that's what the plan is. Because if they did, they would be like the retailers saying, wait, hold on a second. What do you mean you're going to tax consumers instead of companies?
Yeah, politically, it could be like trying to raise the national gas tax, which is always ends in a death knell.
Right. In a celebrity death match. That's basically what I am afraid this is going to end in.
Yeah.
And then I think corporate America is going to be upset because a lot of the enthusiasm, I think, when President Trump was elected that you saw in the markets, I think had to do with they thought, hey, he's going to be pragmatic. He's going to come in. He's going to cut corporate taxes.
Well, to be
fair, I think it's delayed.
I don't think I've heard this much attention being focused on tax reform in a lot of years. Certainly, I did not hear it during your administration under President Obama, Austin. I didn't hear this kind of focus about lowering taxes, about moving the needle on economic growth. Is that a fair statement?
Well, not on growth. Although that first part, I agree with you. He has made a priority talking about tax reform and tax cutting. Right. And we can argue about would that work or not work.
So you got to prioritize it first in order to make it happen, right? First, you got to prioritize it.
Yeah, you have to. And so that's why I think that clip from the House Republicans in which they said, yes, we want to get to that in 200 days, but we're just going to first repeal and replace Obamacare. I think corporate America is going to be very nervous about that because the chance that repeal and replace gets extended, I think, is pretty high.
I don't think they're going to lose this opportunity. I think that they're all laser focused, that they've got this window in the next 2 years to get stuff done. Michael Buck, you wanted to jump in real quick.
Yeah, I mean, Austin, you know, you're worried that tax cuts and reforms would go to paying higher dividends to rich people. That's what I'm hearing from you. What if these tax cuts were married and deregulation was married with incentives to invest in jobs, in infrastructure, in things that are going to help the whole country? Is that something that could be done?
It might be, but what you're describing, all the things you just described cost money. So the question is always, well, who's going to pay for that, or are you just going to blow the deficit up?
That's just it.
All right, Austin. Lot of details that we'll be watching in the coming months. This is an important moment in time. We appreciate you weighing in as always.
Indeed.
We'll see you
Thank
soon.
you.
Austan Goolsbee. You can watch